Happy Wealth Wednesday, Vered. I am so excited to have you here. Just your journey in your process of working in the financial space has been fantastic, and also now into Vise. So, very excited to chat with you about that, and would love if you would kick us off with a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Verd Frank. I currently head product marketing at Vise. Vise is a technology-driven asset management platform that is disrupting the investment management space using technology to power portfolio construction. I've been in financial services for quite some time now. I started off on the institutional side. So I worked as a trader for many years and worked a lot around structuring products that really met institution-specific needs. Really loved financial engineering and everything that came with that. But then I actually pivoted over to the retail side of the business, and I spent about 8 years at Charles Schwab, which was a fantastic opportunity for me to learn about every aspect of the retail business and be really thoughtful about how difficult financial decisions are for people like you, me, our parents, our children. Really, I took for granted some of the things that I knew, and I actually realized that there was a lot I didn't know. So I really spent 8 years immersing myself on all the different products and being thoughtful, not just how those were designed and the strategy behind them, but also how they're distributed. So how you put those products in the hands of the people who need them most.
What your first ever investment was, what got you started? Do you remember, or what was it?
I will admit candidly, I really started late in the game in terms of engaging with my own financial life. I would say I can't remember the first investment that I made, but I do remember the first. Well, I made a couple of financial mistakes, but I'll say one of them that I made was that I remember acutely was at some point I had switched companies and I had rolled over my 401k to cash. So when you switch companies, there are a lot of different decisions that you need to make. And one of them is to be thoughtful about if you have money sitting in a 401k with that company, what do you do when you go to a new company? And I just didn't know any better. I rolled it over in cash and then it just sat there for many, many years. In retrospect, it wasn't the worst thing in the world because it actually sat there during the 2009 financial crisis. But at the same time, as we know, or as you should know, you can't time the market. So even though I didn't lose money during that downturn, I actually missed the opportunity to start growing that money because by the time I realized it was still sitting in cash, the market had actually gone up quite a bit. So that was my money mistake. And the first time I kind of started to realize, oh, I should pay a little more attention to these decisions.
So how and why did you get into your space? And I'd love if you could share a little bit about your journey on some of the entrepreneurial thoughts and ideas you had had.
So while I was at Charles Schwab, I really started to understand, like I said, that this retail space and how you think about people and money and the role it plays in their lives. And at the same time, technology was really picking up around this. So a lot of really innovative companies started to come out, Betterment, Wealthfront, LearnVest. And I was just really fascinated about the approach that they took of leveraging this user experience to really appeal to people directly and engage them around their financial lives. And so I had my own idea of how I wanted to really focus on women in particular and engaging them around investing and taking ownership of these key financial decisions so they wouldn't have to repeat the mistakes that I made. So I actually built an online platform that was really designed around pivotal moments in people's lives. So we know that life events are usually when people tend to engage in their financial aspect of their lives. It's just the reality. There's so much that everyone's dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So just taking time to say, today I'm going to think about my portfolio is not common. And what I did was I established checklists around those key pivotal moments. And those checklists were really walking around the financial decisions that people should be thoughtful of. I'm a certified financial planner. So I'm really aware that a lot of the information around decision making is somewhat academic in nature, where there are the key decisions you should make. In some cases, there's a right and wrong decision. In some cases, there are just options available to you. So I wanted to translate to an online experience that women in particular could find as a resource when they're going through these key changes in their lives.
So what role are you playing now in the wealth space, and why do you think it's important?
So when it's interesting, when it comes to fintech, that's a really large ecosystem nowadays. It's kind of crazy. And I definitely consider myself a fintech nerd, but there are a lot of different verticals that exist in fintech. There's payment companies, there's cryptocurrency companies, there's credit card companies. So it's manifesting in a lot of different ways, the way in which technology is transforming financial services. For me, what I'm really attracted to is how it's transforming investing in particular, and how it's actually transforming the relationship between a financial advisor and the clients that they serve. So at Vise, we are really committed to actually empowering financial advisors to be able to connect with their clients around their investment portfolios in a way that did not exist before. And at the core, it's really about personalization. So being thoughtful about the fact that now more than ever, not only do people care about investing, but they care about investing with their values and preferences. And that is uniquely personal. And it's really critical to have technology to empower that ability to create portfolios around really specific preferences for every individual. Really, Vise's vision is to really fundamentally transform the way we think about investment management and how you invest your money. And so while this is the beginning part of our journey, over time, we actually look to expand those capabilities beyond just independent advisors and being thoughtful about how they're constructing portfolios. So this is really a whole new way of thinking about investing, one that was traditionally controlled by some large organizations, and really they controlled it because they needed to structure those funds. They needed to structure those vehicles. They required a lot of work. They required a lot of people. They required portfolio managers. There was a high human element to how you created those investment products that no longer needs to exist anymore. So really just at the beginning of this transformation, and we'll see how it evolves, but that's what actually gets me really excited about this space. I'm not one for replacing humans at the jobs that they enjoy doing and doing best, but we know that technology has transformed a lot of areas, and investment management is actually one of the ones that so far has been relatively untouched. And not for any good reason, except that the technology was not available. And there were very few people who felt really passionate and visionary about how to change the space.
What do you believe is the most exciting thing you've learned and that you would want others to know?
I keep going back to the power of having an advisor in your life, a financial advisor that you trust. And, it's interesting, when the robo-advisors came out, there was this belief that financial advisors were not necessary anymore. And I would say, even for myself, when I was working on my startup, I started going through the CFP process to become a certified financial planner because I was convinced that everything that I needed to code onto my platform would exist in those textbooks, right? If I'm learning something through a textbook experience, it must be that it can be coded and programmed and you can translate it to software. And what I learned is you can, but it's actually not going to help people, right? So I think there's this misconception that if you give people all the information, it gives them power. And it's not necessarily always the case when it comes to money and people's financial lives, because it is so incredibly emotional, so personal. I know right now that the solution that we're building at Vise is best delivered through financial advisors. We will be able to help more individuals by going through the advisors than we would be if we actually just created an online portal that people could access themselves. And that's been proven somewhat through the robo-advice models. And so it keeps coming back to the importance of having someone that you trust, having someone that you know has your best interest in mind. So when we think about fiduciaries like certified financial planners, their mantra is do no harm, right? So when you get that advice, you want to get it from someone who's actually has that certification and that designation, because you can be confident that is how they lead their life. That is their core value. So that's really my suggestion to people is find that trusted person, find someone that you can work with. And try to be as informed as possible. Again, at the end of the day, there are people that they just want to hand over the reins, and that's okay as well. This isn't everyone needs to get involved. Everyone needs to get excited about this. Like I said, I'm a fintech nerd, but I do hope that people find trusted partners that can either work with them through this or just do it for them, right? So I would say be thoughtful of, are you someone who wants to do it yourself? Are you someone that wants to partner with someone and sort of be led in the right direction? Or are you someone that just wants to hand over the reins? And if you can answer that question first, really equip you with the right direction in order to start thinking about what's important for your specific financial life.
Who's a person or company that inspires you in the space and why? And I'd love to hear your answer for that, but I'd also love, on what you just shared, if you could share any resources you have of how to find fee-based or fee-only advisors. I've found that to be relatively difficult.
Really admire Alexa Von Tobel, who founded LearnVest. She's now running a venture capital fund whose name I forgot. So she is still active a little bit in fintech. Some of the companies in her portfolio are fintech companies. And the other one was John Stein. He really set himself out there as a person who is looking to educate not just individuals, but actually the government too, on the importance of financial health, importance of financial education. So betterment and wealth were became came to market at roughly the same time, and they took very different approaches. And I really admire what John Stein did with Betterment and how he was thoughtful about the positioning of the value that it was delivering, and how he really took it upon himself to educate a lot of other people in this space.
What advice would you give to somebody getting started?
I would say, so there's so many resources online. I would just, if you're just getting started, I would just pick one topic, right? I wouldn't go and search like, how do I get started with my financial life? I would just pick one area in particular. So if you're thinking about, you have credit card debt that you want to pay off, or you are thinking about, I want to open a brokerage account, start there and just start building on that knowledge base. And so again, you might not get very far in this journey because it's simply not interesting to you. And that's where it's, find people you can partner with. But I do find if you have some sort of pain point that's really acute, that's really the best way to get started, and the most common one, because it really immerses you in a very specific topic. Hopefully the pain point isn't too large. Hopefully it's something that you just started at a new company and you need to think about moving your 401k, or how to think, your new company has given you the 401k options. How do you think about starting to invest? And usually a lot of companies will have resources that you can speak to as well that are very patient and really walk you through that process. I think those are really great entry points into investing.
Great advice. And is there anything else we should know? How can we follow you, what you're doing, and even maybe some of those checklists that I don't know if they still exist anywhere in the world, but it sounds like it was a great resource.
The checklists do not exist anymore, unfortunately. But I would say the best way to follow me is on Twitter, at @VeredFrank, I should say. I tend to post there information that's really top of mind to me, stats, trends, or things that I think are really relevant in this space.
Perfect. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything you've shared. I really appreciate you joining us today and sharing your story. And we'll definitely be following along.